Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to another Crafternoon Box tutorial from Papercrafting Australia. My name is Tangi, thanks for joining us. So this month we're doing, or this week rather, we're doing the second tutorial for the month of June, and today we're going to be working on some heat embossed background cards. So thank you again for joining me. I hope you are all well. The moving and packing is still going on around me. There's lots of empty boxes that are just kind of there for storage purposes at the moment, just they're out of the way of the rest of the house. We just come in and grab a box every now and again and, kind of help ourselves to those empty boxes for certain things. But I hope you're all well this Saturday. We're finally out of lockdown in Melbourne, so hooray! We can only go 25 kilometres from our house, so it's not too far, but it's better than nothing. So you can't be too upset about that. But thank you if you're joining me on Facebook or YouTube. Just pop into the comments. Let me know you're here. Let me know how your Saturday is so far. And I don't know if you're, depending where you're coming from around the country, we've got a long weekend this weekend in Victoria at least. What are we this month? Is it Queen's birthday long weekend this month? Was that March? I don't know. We've got a long weekend. Who cares what it's for? We just love our long weekends. So 3 days off, so that's excellent. So just going to check in on our Facebook. So we've got Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Emma's here. Hello, Emma. Welcome. You're finally at a live. That's so exciting. Hopefully you enjoy yourself. Yeah, have a chat with all the folks in the chat. They're all very friendly. Hi, Tony. Hope you're staying warm. Yeah, good crafting weather, absolutely. And 3 days of crafting, except if I was, not having to pack up a house. Linda hello. Good to see you in here on a Saturday. Cool. Well, it looks like we've got a few people in, so we might kick things off because it is a bit of an involved process today. No internet, Jenny. So you're watching on the phone. Oh, that's okay. The phone still works. It's good. So today we are working on this little card. So it's kind of getting a little bit. We're just working on some little techniques today, and obviously some new products that we've popped into the kit. So we're going to be working on this beautiful heat embossed background. So if you haven't done heat embossing before, we're going to go through the steps and what you'll need for that. And you will have gotten the bits in the kit that you need for this month. And that will actually get you through for quite some time. So it doesn't look like much. The embossing powder doesn't look like a lot, but it'll get you through quite a few cards and projects. So I'm just going to go through and we're going to make something very similar in style to this today. So the first thing I have got under all of my junk here is I've got a little bit of scrap photocopy paper. So you're going to want a clean piece of photocopy paper. Or other paper. It can be just a lined page out of a notebook if you like. And we're going to use that to be able to get the embossing powder. Once we've gotten it out of the container, we're going to use this to get it back in the container so that we're not wasting any. I've also got one of our white Couture Creations A6 size card base. So you all know we can fold that and then burnish it with a bone folder just to get it into the card shape. You can do it straight up at the start or you can do it at the end, whatever works for you. Just remembering that you always have the little hill of the score line facing up inside your card, and that just helps to stop the spine from cracking when you fold that cardboard. I have also got one of the pieces of the beautiful Paper Rose plaid and watercolour 6x6 inch papers. So I'm using this cute little plaid. I'm not going to use the plaid today, even though that's so gorgeous. I like that one. I'm actually going to use the watercolour texture on the background, so the aqua side. Now I've already cut down a piece of the mermaid cardstock, the Kaisercraft cardstock that came in your kits for the month. I've cut that down now for an A6 card. This is the border size that we're going to use. So this piece is 95 millimeters by 138 millimeters. So that should give you a good 5 millimeter border on your the white part of your cardstock. So I'm actually going to replace the black cardstock, which I normally use as the border, with the mermaid color today. So that'll be my background, and then I will be putting the patterned paper on top of that, and we're going to be embossing onto this patterned paper. I've also got a piece of white cardstock. Now this is going to be for, actually I don't need that. I had that out because I thought I was doing a card. I was going to do a full mermaid size card, a full mermaid card, and I was going to cut this down so that we had a panel on the inside so that you had something to write on that wasn't aqua, but I don't need that. So I'm going to pop that aside. I got a little bit crazy ahead of myself. Now we are also going to be using, you can use any stamps you like, it's totally fine. I'm just going back to the Romantic Roses set that we had in the May kit, just because there's lots of little pieces that kind of work up a really cute, almost like damask material. Just the little kind of, you know, scrolly bits and leaves and flora in there. So I'm going to use these stamps again today. I've got the Paper Rose Hello Fine Script, the layered metal die. So that has got the Hello Fine Script, and it's also got the bubble background to put that on. So I'm going to use those again. I have got my Couture Creations double-sided tape and the double-sided foam tape. So I'm going to be using those as always. Got the Kaisercraft rhinestones. These are the icy blue ones, and I thought they'll probably complement quite well with that mermaid colour. It's not too far off, so I'm going to use those today. We've got, now this is a little product. This is it's a powder bag. So in this, if anyone's worried about what is in that bag, it's corn flour, and what that is going to do is it's going to help de-static your cardstock and pages so that your very super fine embossing powder is not going to stick to your pages in places where you don't want it to. So I'll go through that with you. You've got a small, this is a 5-gram tub of our embossing powder. So this is so new to Papercrafting Australia that when I went to do the labels to send out your boxes, I went to do the labels, and my printer had a massive hissy fit, so I couldn't print and cut the labels that needed to go on there. So you've got an unofficial Papercrafting Australia embossing powder. So all of our other ones, and there's a bunch of colours coming out that we'll be putting out. They will have stickers and labels on them, so you'll know what. But it might be worth popping a little bit of, maybe plain washi tape or something on yours somewhere and just writing clear. Just so that you know that this one, if you ever pick it up, it's not a white embossing powder, it is going to go clear. I've got just the thin white ribbon from the kit today, so you can see I tied that around and we made a little bit of a bow. And I've got the Couture Creations embossing ink pad in clear. So if you've taken your lid off, the ink pad itself, don't panic that you've got something wrong. It's a blue sponge. It's not the colour of the ink itself. So the ink is completely clear. So don't panic if you've taken the lid off and you're like, oh my God, it's blue. It is just the colour of the sponge pad that's on there. So let's get into it. Tony, love the watercolour side of those papers. Me too. Can we get more of the embossing powder? Yes, you can. That will be going up in the store over the weekend. So I'll pop a Facebook post up when I get around to that, amongst the packing and the other crazy that's going on, and also a little bit of rest that I might have for the long weekend. Tomorrow we're going off to get our first COVID vaccine, so that will be fun. Hopefully it doesn't, I know some people have reported coming back and feeling a little bit unwell afterwards, a little bit like most of the vaccines that you might have throughout your life. So let's get into it. I'm just going to cut down these pieces of cardstock first. So we'll get everything prepped and then we'll start stamping and embossing. You are also going to need a heat tool. So whether you've got one of these kind of guns, it might be a different color, it might be a different brand, that's totally fine. But it's just going to basically like a craft hairdryer. If you don't have one of these, you can bring a hairdryer to the table. I will kind of speak when we're doing the first of the embossing just about how to just be a little bit careful about using your hairdryer. Sometimes they're a little bit more powerful, and sometimes you just don't want to blow all your embossing powder off your project. Hi Marie Quinn, we've got another one joining the live today. Hooray! So happy to have you. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit chilly out there today. As you saw probably earlier, I've got a hoodie on in my craft room today. This room, it's a bit far away from the heater that we have in this place. It's just one of those gas wall heaters. So it kind of heats the lounge room and that's about it. So yeah, I just popped my jumper on before and went, okay, I'll go to the craft room now. But in the new house, which we saw this morning, I'll talk to you about that in a bit, we have central heating. So it's going to be much nicer. And I've got beautiful big natural light through the windows. It's great. So as I said before, the dimensions for your border for the A6 card, that one is 95 by 138 millimeters. And then I'm going to cut this one down a little bit smaller just to give a 3 millimeter border. So where the black is there, 3 millimeter border of that. So this will be cut down to 89 by 132 millimeters. I've got my handy little mini guillotine trimmer, the Couture Creations one. So anything that I'm kind of mentioning as we go along, you can purchase on the Papercrafting Australia website. Some of the new items, so the embossing ink, the embossing powder, the powder bag, they're not up yet, but they will be going up this weekend. I've got some in reserve, and I've also got, in case anyone misses it, and we're going to use it in a future session, we're going to use the embossing pen. So if you didn't order it, you kind of look at what we're doing with it and you go, actually, I really would like that, you'll be able to order that from the store and get it in your next box. So what are we going down to? 89, chop away by 132. 89 by 132. I always feel like I'm calling bingo numbers when we get to that stage. I'm just going to double check that I did cut it down to approximately the right size, so that's looking good. All right, pop this little guy away. Now I'm going to save this bigger piece of my paper. Actually, what I'll do, I'm going to get in and do that now. So I've already cut the black shadow for my little hello greeting, and I'm just going to pop this little guy out, and I'm going to, you might have seen on my example that I've cut out the, or die cut the fine script onto the watercolor paper. So I'm just going to turn around. I've got my my big shot set up on a table behind me today, just because I knew I was going to need it. So bear with me. I'm not going to show this on camera today because I think most of you know how to die cut. So I'll just quickly get that done. And I'm back with you. So just need my pokey tool. Get the little, where is it? Hiding away in here, my basket of goodies. Saw the new craft room today, guys. Very exciting. No cabinetry in there yet, so it just looks like a bedroom, but very exciting to see. For those that are new, we're just in the process of building a new house, and I'll have a new craft studio there. And yeah, it's taken a long time, and there's been some dramas, particularly with the COVID lockdowns and things like that, where we haven't been able to go out and see it, or that kind of stuff. And it's, having materials available has become a bit of an issue, and all kinds of things. But we're nearing the end, and in probably, I keep saying 2 to 3 weeks, because that's what we keep getting told. In 2 to 3 weeks, this should be ready. In 2 to 3 weeks, this will be ready. And it's like, it's so not ready in 2 to 3 weeks. So anyways, we'll get there. Tony, you love embossing. That's great. I love it. I have found with this this embossing powder, it's so fine. So it's going to get into all of your really little tiny intricate little spots, which is why, again, I chose the Precious Marika stamps to use, because they are quite fine and thin. Now, before I go too much further, I'm going to glue this together, because then it'll be, oh no, I won't, because I've got to do something on that. Okay, scrap that. Getting ahead of myself. Okay, get all these things out of the way. And first things first, I'm going to prep my piece of paper. So we are going to be pouring quite a lot of embossing powder onto this surface. And so for that reason, I'm going to just plonk my bag down a few times. You're probably not going to see much coming out, but it is quite fine. So if you run it across your fingers, you'll see that there's just a little thin layer of fine powder, the corn flour. So just give it a few whacks onto your page. That'll puff out a little bit of the powder, and then you can just give it a light little dusting with your bag. And what that's going to do is just take the static out of the paper, so that once you pour all of your embossing powder over and you go to tip that back into the container, it's not going to, it's not going to get extra stuff stuck onto your paper. All right, I'm going to get out my stamp platform as well. So I'm going to just bring my prepped piece of paper down, and I'm going to line up. First, I'm going to de-static this piece of paper as well, because once you've started putting, now you can see the powder starting to come out. Once you've put the embossing ink onto here, you don't want the oils from your fingers and things like that starting to create other sticking points for the embossing powder to stick to. So it's good just to give that a good dusting over. Depending on your skin, you might find that the oil from your skin actually starts to become like a glue, and the embossing powder will be attracted to that. So you may need a little, just a fine paintbrush, which I haven't got one out. So I'll grab one because I may need one. There's one. It's not the finest paintbrush in the world, but I can just use that to just dust off any stray powder that might end up down there. But I'm going to use my stamping platform just so that I can kind of line this up, and I've got, yeah, it is the 1 inch line. So I'm just lining up with, I'm going to line up with the 6 inch line down the bottom here, just so that once I've put my magnets down and I get my stamps, which I've put somewhere, oh here, if that picks up and I need to stamp it twice just to get a little bit more of that embossing ink on, then I'll be able to line it back up again so I can stamp things back in the right place. So you can use whatever stamps you like for this. What? Uh-oh. I just ripped the sheet off and one of the stamps has just flung across the room. Oh goodness. They've gotten stuck to the wrong bit. So here are the stamps that I'm going to use. Oh God, I don't know where that's gone. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it because our carpet is very light. It's like a cream colour. Although there is a lot of residue from crafting. All the little scraps of paper and stuff. I've been a bit lax on cleaning because I know there's going to be a big cleaning job at the end. Let me just have a really quick look and see if I can't spot them. Looking at clear things in the middle of that room at the moment is not going to happen. All right, never mind. Okay, let's start placing some stamps. So obviously we're going to place them stamp side down. And I'm just going to kind of try and fit them in fairly close together, but I'm going to want them in different kind of directions and angles, just to try and fill up the space. Of course, we're embossing with clear embossing powder today, but you can get a variety of colours, and you can kind of go at it in a number of different ways. I'll try and put, that'll do. It's got a flower on it. I don't know if I've conditioned that stamp actually, so I'll just give it a bit of a rub. Hi Julie, thank you for joining us on Facebook. Hope you're well. Just putting some stamps, getting them in position, ready to do some heat embossing to create a bit of a background here. And I've got a piece of hair floating in. It's always good. At least it's not dog hair today. That's normally the way things go. Don't have a dog anymore, but we still get lots of his hair floating around the house. Yes, gone but not forgotten, because we definitely get reminded of him every day with the amount of hair that floats around. Okay, I'm going to try and get some fairly close to the edge, just filling up. And this I'm filling up a lot more than I did the first time. Okay, so I'm just going to flip over the door. Oh, I've missed a stamp. Oh, see, and look, I've got a bit of a cling issue at the moment. So this could be fun. I might mess this up before I've even started. I hope not. Oh, and that one's not sticking. Okay, all right, we are going to have problems. All right, I might only be able to stamp once because as I pull this up, it's probably going to pull up. You can see that's already moved. Yep, they're already falling off. Gosh, this is going to go well. Going to go well today. Happy days. It wasn't a problem the other day when I stamped, but I obviously need to give them a bit more of a clean since I was last using them. But give them a good push down, they'll be right. Okie dokie. Let's get going. So for this little part, I'm just going to take my ink pad, give it a good smush, and you are going to need to condition your ink pad a little bit. The first couple of impressions that you do with it, you're going to need to squish down so that you can draw the ink up because it will have settled for a while. A little bit of a tip is to, oops, a daisy, there goes the stamp, is to actually store your stamp upside down, and that will keep the ink kind of towards the top, ready to use. But it won't hurt it if you leave it up the regular way. I don't know if I'm just gonna leave that stamp off for this one because it's obviously not happy playing the game at the moment. So I've just given that a good going over. I'm gonna flip my door over, give it some good pressure all over, just so that ink can make itself, and you won't see a lot, so it's very, very fine, and obviously it's clear ink, so you won't see a lot. I'm going to take that piece of paper out of there, and I'm just going to lay, I need a bigger desk, it's coming. So I'm going to lay my cardstock in into my scrap paper. I'm going to take the lid off my embossing powder. Now, I am one of those people who loves to, kind of pack up my embossing powder while I'm using it. So every time I do a pour, I'm going to pour it all back into the jar. I'm going to put the lid on it and put it aside because I will always be that person that knocks it over. So just pour, you can go the whole hog, empty the whole jar on top of the section that you have just stamped. And then you can kind of just tip it off, and you will see, get it in the right light, you'll start to see a bit of a frosted kind of effect where the embossing powder is now stuck to the embossing ink. Now it's not stuck permanently at this point in time, so like I've got a few pieces over here, I can just take my little paintbrush and just dust any flecks that are not where you want them to be. If you flip over your card, you can also just give it a little bit of a flick, and that'll knock any excess off, and you'll get most of the bits that are in amongst your design. You'll find if you've had any little random bits in there, I've probably flicked that a little bit hard and dropped a little bit more off, but that's okay. So once you've got it to that stage, just set that aside. I pre-folded my piece of paper before, just so that I can kind of just tip this up, make a little bit of a funnel. I'm going to move that down a bit lower on screen because I've got a wall there, and then just tilt it up and pour your powder back in. So that's again why you would want to de-static that piece of paper before you start this whole process, so that you've got that paper nice and clear. Okie dokie, let's get to the good part, the fun part. So I'm going to take my heat tool, hope it's plugged in, yep. I'm going to turn it on. It's going to be quite noisy, so I'm going to try not to talk too much to you while this is happening. But you'll start to, hopefully I'll try and get it in an angle where you can start to see the magic happening. And what's going to happen is as you heat the embossing powder, it's going to liquefy and then it's going to harden. Now once you take it off the heat, once it's kind of melted, don't put your fingers in it straight away. A, it's going to be hot, and B, it won't actually have solidified yet. So you want to give it a bit just to cool down and solidify. Otherwise, you'll smudge your embossing. So I'll just be a bit quiet for this. Heat tool's going to make more than enough noise for us all. just heating up the tool a little bit before I go straight to my surface. Now, also for anyone who works with a mat on their desk, just be careful that you've got a heat-resistant one. Otherwise, you will melt it. I'm going to tip this so that you can hopefully see when this bottom one starts to liquefy. You can see that it's become kind of darker. Looks like it's wet. Yeah, I haven't really got enough embossing powder on there. I flicked too much off. Now, if you're using a hairdryer for this, just be careful that when you kind of apply the air to it to begin with, that you don't blow all of the embossing powder straight off. For that reason, you might want to actually heat from underneath with your hairdryer, just so that you can get the heat through the paper or the card, but not blow everything away. It's not actually that loud. Okay, that's good. This one isn't actually as loud as others that I have used. So depending on the light that I'm in, you'll start to see that there is that glossy watermark kind of effect that's happened because of the embossing powder being on the embossing ink. I don't think this colour is coming out quite as well as the yellow one I did. So anyway, there's a tip for you. Hopefully you can see a bit of that action there. A bit glossy. So then essentially what I will need to do next is to clean off and dry off all of my stamps. I'm just going to use a baby wipe today. They're all going to come off the door because we're going to put them in different places for the next bit. Oops. Give them a bit of a once over with my cloth. And you've got to dry everything off, because the last thing you want to do is then put a wet stamp onto your paper and leave a wet mark in a place that you didn't want it, and or the embossing ink won't grip to the stamp, or your stamp won't grip to the door, so you won't be able to stamp anything. You'll have stamps falling off like I did before. So just giving them all a little quick. God, I have to lean so far to get this on camera. Set the camera up a bit far back today for this kind of work. Oh, that's good that it's not. That's a good marketing for the heat gun then, if it's not too loud, because the worst thing is that you'll end up with a really loud heat gun, industrial deafness and all that kind of stuff. Alright, just going to give these, this is just a microfiber cloth that I've got today. Give them a little bit of a dry. That'll help to bring back their sticky as well. So it's a little bit of a time consuming process. It's not too bad. Whose idea was it to use this many stamps? Just kidding. Got no one to blame but myself for coming up with this idea. We're just using what we have. So just going to go back in, repeat that whole process, and just fill up more of the card. Just going to dry off my door because there'll be a little bit of wet residue there. Okay, so pop this little guy back into position. Pop a magnet up there, and I might just do a couple of, I might do the corners, the sides. I probably could have left these in the same spot and just stamped it again in this. So I won't do the full coverage on the card. It's going to be a bit boring, I think, to watch me go through all of that multiple times. Has anybody else got the long weekend today, or is it just Victoria? I'm sure it's other states. This one. I know WA normally has completely different holidays to us. I might put this magnet a little bit further up. Decisions, decisions, as my grandmother would have said. So I've got here. Oh, I actually haven't used one of those. I thought it was what I had already. Just trying to fill in. Sometimes they just make some odd shapes and odd gaps. And I'll put this one just up here. Go there. That's pretty good. Then I've got a little bit of a gap in the middle and I can fill that. Oh, Western Australia had the long weekend last weekend. South Australia's got the public holiday on Monday. Would have used larger stamps because you're lazy. Hey, that works just as well. And what works really well for this kind of technique is the like your background stamps. So if you've got a full sheet kind of shaped stamp, they work really well for embossing. Embossing and then ink blending, which we're going to do this month. So we're just getting the basic technique. I'm just going to pop a little bit more powder bag back on here because, whoops, and there's a lot come out now. I think I've finally got it moving. Yeah, I know I've been touching that cardstock a lot and I have quite oily fingers, so I don't really want to mess that up and have too much that I have to clean off. All right, so just giving that a good, inking up. Squish, bring that over, give myself a bit of a stamp. Now, if I know that I haven't moved that, I can actually go back in and re-ink those again, just to make sure that I get a really good, oh, I've missed a stamp there, or it's come off one or the other. I don't think I put that one on. Just to give a really good ink impression. Sometimes it takes a little while for the ink pad to kind of let go of its ink. All right, open up my piece of paper again, pop that one down in the middle-ish somewhere. Go to town pouring embossing powder all over it. Great if you're doing a larger piece of embossing and you're only using a 5 gram embossing powder. Start at the top and cover that, and then as you lift it, it's going to drain down over the top, and it will actually catch on the other bits there as well. So that's all good. I'm going to go a bit more gentle with my flicking of things this time. I think I've got a good, just make out the embossing powder on there. I've got a little bit of extra just up here. Flick that off. But otherwise, I think we're good to go. Okie dokie. So, pop that in the middle. Pop my little jar at the ready and just funnel it all in. Look, some people in the States, because it's very common for them to have coffee filters. So, you know, the big white coffee filters, they often use that to put underneath their embossing. I just find a sheet of regular paper works just as well. As long as it's clean, that's all good. Now I'll just hit this with the heat tool again. You can see I've put the lid back on my embossing powder because I don't want it to go everywhere. Making noise. Apparently it's not a loud noise, so that's good. Linda will understand the terminology making noise in the theatre industry if we're about to make a lot of sound on stage or something like that that might prevent other people from working in a safe manner. You have to kind of yell that out just to say that you are going to make that noise. Yeah, we can all work safely. People have got the chance to yell stop or don't or whatever because they're about to, do something quite dangerous and they need quiet to talk to each other. So yeah, just a bit of a force of habit to say making noise before I make noise. And the other trick, just with if your card starts warping, which this one hasn't started warping too much, is that you'll find that the the paper will warp one particular way, so it'll start to bend. If you put your heat then from the other side, it'll start to warp back the opposite way. So sometimes it's a little bit of a juggling act, just to heat it from one side, heat it from the opposite side, heat it from one side, heat it from the opposite side, and just keep moving it, just so that you are kind of moving that all around. But for what I'm going to do today, I'm quite happy with that as it is. So I haven't done the whole bit. Of course, if you wanted the full coverage, you can go back into this section in the middle and add some more stamps in there and go just fill the whole thing up. I'm just going to do this one as a little bit different because we've already seen the yellow one as is, and I do like to kind of make it a little bit different. Do my little cleanup of my stamps. They did stick better, so obviously I didn't clean them after the practice one that I did. Oops. I've got to show you the bad practices as well as the good, because then you know how to fix things if you do it yourself and you go, why are my stamps not sticking anymore? Give them a clean. They'll normally come good. Okay. Give that a little bit of a nice wipe down. All right, I'm done with my stamp platform, so I'll put my magnets back into it and whip that off over there. You like that look, Sharon? It's good. All right, I'm just going to do one more piece of embossing before I go any further. It has absolutely nothing to do with stamping, and it has just another little technique that I want to show you. So a lot of people use a product like Range's Glossy Accents, which is almost like one of our, gosh, I've packed them away, but the 3D liquid drops. So it's like a liquid, almost like a coloured glue, and you can get it in clear and you can use that to highlight different items on your project. Lots of people are using it to kind of go over their scripty font and make that glossy and a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm going to do a bit of a cheats way today, because if I've got embossing powder and I've got embossing ink and I don't have the glossy accents, I can just do this. So I'm just going to take my little word and I'm just going to ink a bit of the embossing ink onto that. I'm going to give it 3 hits just to make sure that I've got plenty on there. Ugh. And then we went upside down, Miss Jane. So we'll do it again. I probably rubbed it all off then. All right, so I've just got embossing ink on the scripts. I'm just going to cover this with my embossing powder. Fill her up. She's definitely covered. I can't even see the word anymore. And then I've got to get my tweezers and go in. Find my little word. There she is. I'm just going to gently take that out and kind of sit it aside. Just tidy up my embossing powder. And see, I've got a lot of the embossing powder stuck onto where I'd stamped there, so that was a little bit silly of me, but a lot of it has come off, so not wasting too much there. But yeah, in a perfect world, I should have put that over onto the flat piece of paper first and then sprinkled my embossing powder on that. You can absolutely use your embossing pen for this, Tony. Next tutorial that we do, so next week we're going to do the shutterfold card. So that'll just be using some pattern paper and making a card in a different way. But the week after that, we're going to come back to doing some embossing. And when we do that, I'm actually going to be using the embossing pen. So this is just a bit of a cheat for anyone who maybe doesn't have one. I've just got my tweezers. I'm just holding gently on one end. What I need to be careful of here is, because I've got metallic tweezers and I don't have any that have rubber handles on them, is just not to heat my tweezers up. But we're just going to heat emboss. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it in a way that you're going to be able to see. There we go. Trying to keep my fingers out. You might see it start to darken, and that's the embossing powder melting there. I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to kind of get that back and flatten it down. Trying not to take off too much of that embossing powder on my tweezers. Just letting that cool, and then I'm going to grab it by the other end and heat emboss the first end. Where are your tweezers? Here they are. Did I not have them early enough in the process for you? You wanted me to pick them out earlier. Excellent. All right, so that's cooled down. I'll just pop my finger on that, but that's okay. And I'll just hit the other end just to melt the H. I think she's pretty much done. Stick that away somewhere safe. Just let that cool for a bit, and then I'll flatten it down, and I'm going to glue that onto the bubble shape background. You guys hanging it on me because I didn't, what did I do? Oh no, you're just saying about the embossing pen. The embossing pen's great. You can write any word you want and emboss it. You can draw any shape you want. So if you wanted to do this exact kind of technique and have a background made, but you want to draw your own images, go to town. Go to town. I love the embossing pen for that kind of stuff. All right, so you'll see, I don't know if you can get it close enough, you'll be able to see that this has now got a little bit of gloss to it, and it's a little bit raised. So it's a little bit thicker than it was before. Oops, I've managed to go and get my glue to come out already. I'm just going to dab some small spots of glue all over this, just so that that will be able to then adhere to my bubble background. I think people were wanting me to get some more of these little glue containers in with the fine tip. So I haven't done that, but I am putting in an order this week. So I will order some and I'll let you know once they're here. Right. I'm going to use my tweezers to flip this over because otherwise I'm going to get glue all over myself. Hopefully it's lined up relatively flat in the right spot. Good enough. Whack an acrylic block on it to keep it flat while it glues to that, and I'm just going to pop that aside. All right, now I've got a decision to make, guys, and that is when I wrap my ribbon around this, I'm going to do it very similar to my example. Do I do it on the diagonal through that gap that I made there and put my little hello on an angle? Do I put a bow? Do I not put a bow? I know I've promised you all that I'm going to make you some bows for the next box, get them delivered. It's a big decision. Do I wrap it around just this panel, or do I wrap it around this panel as well? Because that'll depend on whether I stick this all down now or not. I think I might get these two stuck together first of all. Flip that one over and get my double-sided tape. Pop some bits of that down. So yeah, so this is chat time for me when I'm doing sticky taping. Diagonal for sure. Diagonal for the greeting as well, for the hello. And I could put some rhinestones either side of it perhaps. Yep, so we saw the house today. We've got lots of new photos. The backsplashes are done. Almost all of the mirrors are in the bathroom. They just cut one the wrong size for the main bathroom, so that's got to get redone. They tell me that the cleaner has been in, but we all know builder clean is not person clean. But I don't actually think the building cleaner has been in, because there's a lot of yuck everywhere. There's still the final coat of paint to do. They've got a bit of sanding and stuff. There's lots of bits of green painter's tape stuck everywhere where the defects are. There's a fair bit of work to be done in there, but anyway. Literally, I mean, look, if they said to us tomorrow your house is ready, it's livable. You can definitely go in. Oops, wrong piece. You can definitely live there. It's just not up to my standards. They might be a bit high, but yeah. But we also had a really good consultation with a concreter who gave us a quote for pathways around our house, and we've had quotes from a fencing guy to put in the fences. We went and met our new neighbours, the neighbours over the back fence today. So we had to go to their house. We'd been given their contact details by the council. And so we went and spoke to them about the fence, and they were like, "Oh, it's lovely that you've come because, we were just going to contact the council this week to get your contact details so we can start talking about the fence." And they were lovely people, and they they gave us a pumpkin. I kind of feel like that scene where it's like, in Dirty Dancing where I carried a watermelon. Very popular scene in our household. We quote that line quite a bit, and I did think today, oh my gosh, if my mum could see me now, she would totally be like, "You carried a pumpkin," because they gave us this humongous Kent pumpkin that they'd grown. They apparently have a lot of them in their backyard. They grow a lot of vegetables. They're Indian folk and they're vegetarian, so veggies are a big thing for them. So they were telling us about all the things that they have growing in the backyard, like capsicums and potatoes and pumpkins, apparently. So we had a really great chat with them, so they're keen for us to get the fence up and do all of that, and pay half. And so it's like, oh my gosh, it's been so nice to have neighbours that are nice people, nice to meet. They're friendly. They run a bit of a family daycare from their home, the female. So yeah, and the guy works for the police commissioner's office. So now we have to really behave ourselves or we could get in trouble. But we also have a neighbour on the opposite side of the road from us who is also a police officer. So we're starting to feel fairly safe and secure in our new neighbourhood. We haven't even moved in yet. But yeah, no, they were lovely, and it was very nice to meet them. All right, I'm going to chop this off because I don't need to wrap this all the way around, which I did with this card because I wrapped it around and I needed some tension to be able to tie off my bow. But I'm just going to take the backing paper off that little strip there and this little strip down here. So I've just popped those two off. That's why I did them into kind of separate pieces. And then I can lay my ribbon on the diagonal where I think I'm happy with it. Somewhere there. And I can just fold that around and it's going to grip to that tape. I'm probably going to have to chop another little bit off. That's that done. Let's just trim this little bit off here. So tiny. There we go. Now I can remove all the rest of this. I carried a pumpkin doesn't have the same ring to it. Hurry up. What did you say? The builder needs to hurry along so I can come visit. Yeah, look, if anyone knows how to get builders to actually just, I don't know, do their job, please let me know. I know we're almost at the end, but we feel like we've been almost at the end for the last 2 months. So it's kind of promises, and I know legitimately there are a lot of shortages with things like timber at the moment, but we're so far past that stage. The items that we need to complete our build at the moment are not having sourcing issues. So it's a little bit draining, but we're nearly there. Alrighty, just going to lay this down. So just using my little diagonal corners kind of technique where I can kind of lay those two down, and I've got the top left and the bottom right kind of holding up, but I can match up the top right and the bottom left. Gives me, I think I've gone a little bit on the wonk, but I'm not doing too bad. All right, let's see how my little sentiment has come along. It's done all right. Don't know whether I should have maybe stuck that ribbon down a little bit further so that I could stick that on the ribbon. Or is it okay if it sits a little bit below on the white? I don't know. Let me know. I always get to this point and then I go, oh, now I'm second guessing everything that I've done. It's just how I work. What do we reckon? Could we put it there? Do we need another bow? Do we need a bow? Do I need to remind you all how I make my bows? little M, little zigzaggy, weavy, wavy M shape. And then just take your fingers out of those two and basically tie those in a knot. Take one loop, tie it through the other. You've all gone very quiet today, guys. Are you all stamping? Are you all embossing? Can you not hear me over your heat tools or hair dryers, whatever you may be using today? So, when you guys go quiet, it's generally because you're doing some work in the background, which is great. Yes to bows. Okay. I like when Marie makes an executive decision. Make the decision and go with it, Marie. Let's see if we've got, see if I can match the size. Are we thinking something like that? Is that kind of your vibe, Marie? If I'd been smart, I could have actually put another one of these under there. Hang on. One moment, please, caller. Let me see how stuck it is. Nah, it's not that stuck. This is what I find is really handy with this tape, is that it holds things really firmly, but when you need to pull something up because you've made a decision, it's doable. All right, here we go. That can probably stay there, but I want this to go on a slightly sharper angle. And we'll get this second piece. I've got to hold it up off the hold it up off my workspace, because otherwise it's going to stick because it's got the adhesive on the back. Let's go double ribbon. This is the thing with craft, you can just make it up as you go along, and if you want to change it, you change it. There are no rules. Oops, now I've just got to try and get this to stay symmetrical. Beautiful. Look at that. It's like I planned it. Yes, you need a bow. Tony's being very definitive as well. Good. Glad we've gone down the bow. Down the bow path. Right. Kind of like sneaking my sentiments further and further up the page as I make more and more cards with you guys. Right. Now that makes me feel a little bit better about the greeting not necessarily sitting up or down on one set of ribbon, because there's actually two sets of ribbon. And then I can pop that in there. Maybe I can pop him on just on the top one. I might pop a couple of little embellishments on the bottom row of ribbon there. What do we think? Oh, it's kind of feeling almost like an Adidas sports card. I just need another line of ribbon. Not what I'm going for. All right, let's glue this little baby down. Get my glue out. Now, which way is going to be flatter? That's actually pretty flat there. Somewhere kind of here. I'm just going to pop the glue down on this one first, because it does take a bit longer, and then I can faff around with my my double-sided foam tape, which you know is my favourite. Give it a bit of a squish, but not too much. Grab a little bit of foam, double-sided tape. I just saw some asterisks come up on the screen in the in the subtitles, and now I'm hoping I didn't say a naughty word. It wouldn't be unusual, but I'd try not to say naughty words on the stream. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't joined us before, you can always go back and rewatch these videos. So they stay in our Facebook feed, and we kind of sort them and put them into categories on our YouTube page. So if you've missed something, or this card technique, whatever, isn't right for you right now because you don't have a purpose, you can always go back later down the track and find them. Similarly, all of our previous tutorials are on our YouTube and Facebook feed. So you can swing back past there if you go, oh, I remember back in January we made those easel cards with the calendars on them. You know, I'd like to make another card that's like that, but, you know, put something different on it. You can go back and watch it. And I kind of rattle through all the dimensions and things like that. So they're always there for you. And then we just keep adding new ones every week. Right, where did I have that? Somewhere there. So funny because I've got my work surface so far forward from where I am, I can't actually see it directly over the top. So the only way for me to know if that's placed where I want it to is to actually look at my camera screen. The joys. Softens the look. Yeah, I think the 2 ribbons, I mean, if I had a wide ribbon, I could understand just using 1 ribbon. But I think the double ribbon there does make it a little bit softer. So that's, we've learnt something today, everybody. Just going to pop a couple of little bits of bling. Just try and get one of these medium-sized ones. And I don't think these ice blue rhinestones work too bad with this. I think they work quite nicely. Alrighty, I am going to call that done for today. Oops, I moved my bin before and I nearly just dropped a whole lot of bits on the floor. Wouldn't be the first time. Anna, thank you. You love the 2 ribbons. Yeah, I think that's a new thing for me. 2 thin ribbons or 1 thick one. We'll see how we go. I know who the thick one is, and that's me. There's my bad dad joke for the day. But yes, thank you again for joining me. What time have we got? 2:58. Wow, we've made it within inside the hour. That's pretty good for me. So I'll pop some photos of that card up for you later this afternoon. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you have had a great time and enjoyed making the card that we've done today. I'd love to see your variations on the card. Just pop a quick little photo. It doesn't have to be anything amazing. I know people always say to me, oh, you know, my photos look terrible, or, you know, I can't get the background to look right. And it's like, just remember that the photos that we take for our publicity and our marketing shots are very much staged. You know, it's not how it comes across when you're working on it in a normal craft room environment where you don't have the pressure of, you know, a TV screen or, you know, a live stream going on. So don't panic if your background doesn't look great. That's not the problem. We're looking at the card. We're looking at what you've done with the creativity and what you've done with your pieces and what colors you've used. So everyone's just looking for that little bit of inspiration. So please share your photos on Facebook. I did pop a little kind of screenshot up the other day. We had noticed that it was very difficult for you to post photos because it was hard to find the post button. So now if you go, because a lot of people obviously are using their phones to take the photo, and then you go into your Facebook profile and go to post it there. And when you went to our page, it wasn't one of the first options that was coming up. It still may not be. So there will be like a little banner that's got home and about and lives and events and other things. If you can actually scroll that little menu across. It doesn't look like you can, but you can. And posts was kind of coming up at the end of that list. So if you've been having trouble posting to our Facebook page, just try and, you know, scroll across and you should be able to find the post button. That should then bring it to the front of that kind of little menu bar. So you shouldn't have to keep scrolling to find it in the future, but it will be in that menu. So if you're not sure, and I haven't explained it very well verbally, please jump on our Facebook page, scroll back a couple of days. I think it was sort of, you know, Monday or Sunday last week, where I shared that little post. So just have a quick look, make sure that your screen, you know, kind of matches that, and you should be able to find the posts button. So we'd love to see that. As I said before, we will be doing the Shutterfold card next week. So join me for that. That'll be at 2 o'clock on Saturday as well, unless something amazing goes with my build and we can move in before then. I don't think that's going to happen. So pop back and join us for that. In the meantime, I hope that you all have a fantastic week. Hopefully the weather gets better for everybody. Everyone who's got long weekends, enjoy. I know I will be. I might even pop in and do another card in the next couple of days. So I'm not necessarily going to announce that it's going to go live. I might just pre-record it and just pop it up. But we'll see how things go. But anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend and your week, and I'll catch you later. Bye bye.